right now. Hey, everybody. Welcome to another edition of 3CGRadio, The Interviews. I'm your host, joined by my co-host, Zach Marshall.
What's up, everybody?
And the American legend and badass, Tim Kennedy. Thank you so much for joining us, man. How you doing today?
I'm awesome.
Great, man. Great. So what do you make of all this? So how things been going for you on in the coronavirus? How's things changed for you? I mean, I know you're a pretty high motor guy. Zach's the same way. So you just been staying in shape or just using this time more to kind of heal up, relax, kick back?
No, I've been still training, 1 or 2 times a day. Obviously it's been hard to grapple, but so a lot of and a lot of strength and conditioning. My life has changed, at all.
Yeah, you've had to build up your home gym, it looks like.
Yeah, I did a squat right. I liked things spar, definitely like squats and deadlifts and like booty workouts. So
I've been doing the booty workouts.
Oh, good. So she missed the gym equipment, so we added some of that.
Yeah, because you train at the On It Academy a lot, right? Did your wife train there too, or? Yeah,
I'm there often. I train at Roca a lot, and there's like five places that I'm at. Kind of reoccurring. Rogue American Apparel. They have pretty cool.
That's an outdoor gym, right? It's like made out of containers, like you're in Iraq again.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
That's crazy, man. Yeah, that's awesome. And so I guess we'll kind of get right into it, man. I mean, we had Jake Shields on a couple of days ago, and we were kind of talking about some of his origins with Chuck Liddell and John Hackelman. And just doing my background on you, I didn't realize that you also were kind of part of that, that pit crew. So how was that back in the day, coming up with those guys?
It's crazy. There weren't super gyms then. You kind of just had groups of guys that would come from regions to train together. Mm-hmm. You didn't have Brazilian Top Team or Jackson's or Rufus. So like on any given day, I remember Matt Lindland, Randy Couture, Jake Shields, Bo Taylor, Dan McGee, Chuck Liddell.
Jesus.
Like just in a random gym.
Yeah, it's nuts.
The pit, man. So I mean, the training back then. I mean, you're still training these days. So how's the training really evolved? Are we just getting smarter with our training methods, or is there still a lot of the meathead mentality where people are just going in there sparring real hard and knocking each other around?
That still is there. I think some gyms have implemented some policies to kind of train. You still have to go in there and get your knocks. You still have to spar hard. AK is an example of a very successful gym, and those guys spar really hard.
Uh-huh.
The
Luke Rockhold,
Jacksons,
Cormier.
Yeah, they throw down. They may have like the most successful record of late, but they also hit harder or they spar harder than maybe anybody else out there right now.
Man, that's good.
Well, you had trained out of Jackson's for a lot of your fight camps, right? What made you kind of settle in Austin as where you're living? Well, you're from California. You train, you did your fight camps out of New Mexico. What is it about Austin that made you kind of settle in your homestead there?
So I'm still in Special Forces on the National Guard side, and Texas has a huge Special Forces unit. Like probably the largest presence of Green Berets outside of active duty is here in Texas. Mm-hmm. So it was really easy to come here and have a job. And my wife was a government contractor, so she was able to come to Texas and work for Dell in government services. Mm-hmm. So in like transition wise, it was a really easy place for us to land.
Right.
Awesome, man. I mean, staying on like the MMA topic a little bit, me and Zach both are military veterans. Zach's a West Point. He's a West Pointer, also an OIF veteran as well. And myself, I was enlisted. I was in Iraq in 2003 from 2002 to 2006. And I see you joined around 2004 was your first join date. So what have you seen that has changed in the military from around the time we all went in? Because I think Zach went in around the same time you did.
Yeah, 2003 is when I went in.
Yeah. So
West Point.
what have you seen as the biggest changes in the military then and now?
Culture has changed a lot. Society has changed, and that has had a negative impact on the military. And this is my opinion.
Snowflake, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, not just that, but when outrage culture, the mob, has a say about what the military should be doing in a time of war, it's a really dangerous precedent to be set. And where you have leaked documents or people going to the press or the press interfering with people are being convicted before they even have gone to trial in military justice, just because of what the outrage culture, they're judging them on themselves. Sometimes right, sometimes wrong, but never should the mob rule what happens in the military. And society, what's appropriate in society is not what's appropriate in the military. I was horrifically hazed, and I think it's one of the hazed as in what people call hazing now. And in my era, that was one of the greatest ways to determine who deserved to be on an active duty ODA. Going through basic training in infantry school, things that would, without a doubt, lawsuits and congressional hearings and, generals losing jobs, that was commonplace. I fought a dozen dudes with the whole entire bay toes online, and with the drill sergeant sitting there watching.
Probably wouldn't go down nowadays.
No, but that was normal then.
Yeah.
And as it should be. I don't want I don't want the guy at the tip of the spear. I don't want the guy standing up on the wall to be accepted by society. I want that guy to be a warrior.
Right, a fighter.
Yeah. He might be missing a couple of teeth, he might talk kind of dirty. He maybe drank a little bit too much 3 Thursdays ago. But when bombs are going off and people are screaming and there's dead people on the ground, that guy's going to clip some wire, start crawling and slit some throats.
Fuck yeah.
And I'd rather have that dude that's been busted down a couple of ranks than that perfect highbrow wearing a monocle, putting on a white glove to pour a soy cappuccino. I don't need that guy.
Nah, not at all.
It's kind of the same thing that when we had Brian Cushing, Texans linebacker on. He trains jiu-jitsu now. He's really into it. But we asked him kind of the same questions, what's the culture whenever he joined the NFL compared to now? And he said, right now it seems like the rookies that come in have a lot more entitlement. They don't, if they don't want to do the workout, they'll suggest that they do a different workout. And he was like, in my days, you were there to learn as the new guy. You didn't go in with any kind of entitlement. I assume it's probably kind of the same thing when you have fresh guys in the middle. Probably not so much the, special forces, but with the regular army for sure.
No, definitely with special forces. The first thing I did when I showed up to a team, I scrubbed the toilet.
You shut up. Yeah,
the floor.
Exactly.
I picked their bags up and I carried them to the car for them. And that wasn't to be demeaning to me. I got my green beret. I got my knife, I signed the book. I'm a legit SF guy, right? Let's go take some names and take some scalps because I'm a badass.
You're still down on the lowest part of the totem pole. Yeah,
no, you're nobody.
That's what the guys
never ever be anybody.
Yeah, that's what Brian Cushing was kind of touching on. He said that the guys that are coming in now have that sense of entitlement and that they don't respect the traditions of what a rookie goes through. They're not respecting, that you're picking up the checks at meals, or, they're not respecting the pranks or the hazing, like you say, that goes along with it. And I think that, like you did say, it does come along with where we are as a society and a call out culture where, everybody's outraged about something. And I think, that can kind of pivot us into a little Corona talk. So what's been your stance on all this stuff? I mean, you being actual government employee still, I don't know how much you want to dig too deep into it, but so what's your thoughts on things?
Idiotic. It's absolutely, and people have lost their minds. You know, I can't
They let
even
fear
grasp,
run their lives pretty much.
yeah, I can't even put my head around like where we are currently in this quarantine lockdown, where the government's telling us that some businesses can be open, some businesses can't, some people can go to work, some people can't, some people can grow food, some people can't. You know, you can't be in public, you can't use a beach, you can't go paddle boarding, you can't go to a park, you can't take your kids to a playscape, your kids can't go to school. Like, no, there's not a moment where at any point have I thought any of this has been a good idea, all the way back to the beginning, where like day one, where they're talking about what's happening in China. I'm like, China's lying. China is up to something. Something super sucks. And, you know, now here we are 3 months later, and now I'm just like, not only was China up to something, but we completely played into it. You know, panic bred panic, fear bred fear. And anytime any decision is made out of fear, it's a bad decision. And every decision that's been made in the past 90 days has been made out of fear. And like, it's going to have catastrophic, like, thank God we're not going to war against China next week, because we would lose.
Yeah. It's tough because we came out early on as one of the first promotions that had to, you know, at first we condensed an event because we were trying to keep it contained to just Texas instead of bringing people in from Florida, New York, California, where these hotspots were developing. And we caught a lot of shit for that, but we ended up having to cancel like everybody else. But I mean, the cancellations that came along with the events and the early on stuff, and now the way that it's played out, it's taken our stance and how we see that now. We were on that side, like prevention, let's do what we can. Oh my God, it's gonna be crazy. People are gonna die. But that changed. I mean, everything was changing like week to week. And now we're like, what in the fuck is going on? How did we allow ourselves to get basically all of our civil liberties taken away? And we're having a government that can't even balance a budget, tell us how we can and can't live our lives. I mean, they can't even get their messaging straight. How the fuck are they going to tell us how to live our lives? So it's
when, you know, you have these models, and these models are like, hey, we're going to lose 2 million plus people. All right, everybody get ready. We're going to have bodies along the road. Like, we're ordering millions of body bags for what's coming. Right, everybody prepare for this. And then like 2 weeks later, it's like, all right, maybe not millions, but we don't know. And then it's like, all right, it's going to be like maybe a bad flu season. Sorry about that. Sorry we did trillions of dollars in damage. I'm sorry you guys lost your homes. I'm sorry you guys are getting bankrupt. I'm sorry you people are getting evicted. I'm sorry you guys have to close your businesses.
Yeah, it's fucking terrible.
It's insanity. And you know, you said
and
you
give up your freedoms to you know, order you to wear certain things. I mean, it's like you might as well, everyone has to wear a star on their shoulder based off their religion. You know, that's where it starts. Once people take power, they don't give it back. Like, they're not like, never. Okay, yeah.
So, I mean, you look at like the stuff you did with like hunting Hitler and a lot of the stuff that you did on that show. I mean, I'm not going to go that extreme and say we're going to go that route, that we're going that authoritarian or whatever. But I mean, you could see where, I mean, there's some parallels to where some of their freedoms started just slowly getting taken away. And next thing you know, I mean, they're under complete rule, and they can't speak. They can't basically, you know, act or live for themselves.
No, I mean, yeah, that's a really great point. If you put a parallel timeline in what happened in the first 2 years of Hitler kind of encroaching on Jewish freedoms, civil liberties, 2 years, 1938 up to 1940, we did that in 2 months. 2 months.
Yeah.
Like, we're like, hey, we're gonna start isolating people. We're gonna start limiting freedom of movement. We're gonna go ahead and remove your freedom of speech. We're gonna remove your freedom to assemble. We're gonna try and remove your ability to purchase firearms. We're gonna tell you who's allowed to go where and when and why.
And he didn't have an ability to track you either, like we have now.
No. Yeah, it took him 2 years to do that. 2 years. We did it to ourselves in 2 months.
So, who's to blame here? Is it Donald Trump, or is it Donald Trump maybe leaning too much on the medical advice and not taking in the economic and maybe the global impact of his decisions? I mean, where is this at? I used to be a Trump fan. I voted for Trump, but I don't know if his handling of this event is as ideal as it should be.
I think we're back to the mob rule. I thought Trump, and I did not vote for Trump, and I am a huge fan of how he treated this virus and how he kind of pushed back. He had to listen, in the sense that the outrage culture, you said it yourself, like, we had to cancel our event. Why did you have to cancel your event?
I mean, honestly, there was just too much pressure. There was other events that were canceling, and then we had some advice from local government and local people around us that were saying, "Hey, if you don't do it." But you know what came out today, Tim? I wanted to mention to you, a guy was on our podcast last night. We did kind of a Houston Jiu-Jitsu community podcast. He comes out and says, "Hey, guess what? I would have had the coronavirus at your event. I've been to every one of them. I would have had a table up front, and if you didn't cancel your event, I would have got everybody sick. Jiu-Jitsu Times ran with it. Everybody. I mean, this guy had COVID-19. If we don't cancel, he's at our event, and who knows? I mean, the amount of people that could have gotten sick from that, or mildly sick, or I'm sorry. I mean, the people that are. I mean, our demographic isn't fucking 80 years old, so nobody's gonna die. But it's that after effect, you know, that trickle effect. Like you go home and you go see your grandparents, and you don't know you have it, and they're fucking dead because of it. That's what people were tripping out about. I don't even know how deep you can really get into it, but I mean, end of the day, like you said, mob culture, people. And fear, and you know, we bought into it hook, line, and sinker in the beginning, and we're trying to catch up for our mistakes back then.
Yeah, I liked your verbiage of, you know, you kind of were forced to, you know, whether it was city, local, other competitors, other venues, contestants, participants, like it was the mob, like collective group was like, hey, this is what you need to do, and if you don't do it, we're gonna say that you hate people, that you want people to die, you don't like old people, you don't like people with diabetes, you don't like fat people. Oh, you want all those people to die? Good to know. All right, we'll remember your business. You know, that's what it was.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And it's idiotic.
Yeah. So Tim, I was going to go down some stuff with your MMA. I mean, you're one of the most accomplished guys. I mean, you fought everybody. I mean, you've got that Roger Gracie fight. You know, that guy is an that guy's an absolute legend. You know, in grappling, and for what you did, you put on a clinic for 3 rounds, or for that duration. How was that fighting somebody of his caliber, I guess, on the grappling side? And what did you do specifically, maybe in preparation for that fight, that you didn't do for others?
Yeah, I didn't. So I had fought Jacare a couple of fights before that.
Oh yeah.
And I was super reticent and apprehensive to go to the ground with Jacare. I don't know why. You know, I was like, hey, this is, you know, like I want to stand and bang with him, you know, and then it ended up being a really, really close split decision that I lost. Mm-hmm. Even though it was a fight that I thought I won, but then towards the end of the 3rd round, I finally was like, screw it. I'm just going to take him down and, you know, slam him and kind of go to work. And when moving into the Roger Gracie fight, I was just aware that I couldn't make that same mistake. You know, like I couldn't be fearful of going to an area of mixed martial arts, whether it's on the feet, on the ground, in grappling. Like I couldn't have a fear of that. I could have a game plan for sure, but so it was more of like there wasn't a lot I changed. I should have done the same thing to Jacare because I would have smashed him there as well. But it was, you know, it was learning from a mistake with Jacare, being like, like, you know, here's one of the greatest grapplers on the planet. I'm not like, why don't I take him where I know I can beat him? Mm-hmm. And with Hodger, I was like, fuck it, I can beat him anywhere. You know, I can beat him on the ground. I can beat him in wrestling. I can beat him in grappling. You know, and I sure as hell can beat him on his feet. Mm-hmm. So like with that said, within like 2 minutes, I shot an inside single and Hodger threw his long ass legs around me and took my back. And I'll tell you where you don't want Hodger Gracie's on your back. So even like the best laid plans can be foiled in a moment.
Yeah, I would like to see the percentage of people that have escaped Hodger Gracie's back control. I think it'd be very, very small.
Well, you were in a very tough weight class too. I mean, you like you said, you had Jacare, you had Yoel Romero, Hodger Gracie. Like
that Yoel fight was bullshit, man. That was the biggest crock of shit I've ever seen in my life. That whole controversy with him taking a 30-second breather on the stool gate. Yeah,
I've gone back and watched that multiple times too. He should have been disqualified right there.
Yeah, I still don't understand what happened, but you know that's in the past. So
yeah,
that was a bummer.
Yeah, were those tough weight cuts for you? Because you seem like you walk around a lot heavier than 185, right?
Yeah, as I got older, the weight cuts got harder. You know, when I was young, I was cutting from like 220, 225 down to 185, and without a problem. You know, when I fought Robbie Lawler, I think I cut from like 220.
Shit.
And like pretty effortlessly. But then, by the time I'm fighting Yoel Romero and I'm fighting
Kevin Gastelum.
Kelvin Gastelum, that weight cut just destroyed me. For two reasons. I had to cut weight twice within 3 weeks. Because I cut to fight Rashad Evans on the New Year's Eve card at Madison Square Gardens, and they made me cut. I don't know why, but for me to get paid my show money, I had to make weight.
Oh yeah, that's right. I remember that.
And Rashad obviously didn't fight, and then 3 weeks later, I had to, I didn't have a fight scheduled, so I ballooned back up, tons of water weight and kind of, hanging out, living large, and then they're like, "Hey, we got a fight for you back at 185." I was like, "Man, I haven't been in training camp in, 2 weeks, and now I need to cut weight and get back to it." So that was a mistake on my part.
And yeah, that weight cutting's rough. I was going to ask you a question about, back in 2019, you said, "Hey, I'm coming back. I'm thinking of taking some fights again." Is that still where your head's at? Or are you open to some grappling super fights? I know I've been harassing you for about a year about it. And so, MMA, grappling. Where's your head at these days?
Yes to all. I'm pretty busy with business.
Mm-hmm.
I did 2 grappling super fights last year. Won the MMA or the Grappling Classic in North Carolina against Dave Camarillo.
Oh yeah,
yeah, he's a legend.
He is amazing.
Yeah,
he
used to have some kind of show or something too, didn't he? Some kind of. Yeah,
the guy's done everything.
Yeah,
judo, wrestling. He was one of the grappling coaches for AKA. He was kind of like him, Bob Cook, and Javier Mendez were the go-to coaches for these guys.
What was his style he created? What was that? Dave Camarillo's?
Guerrilla Jiu-Jitsu.
Guerrilla, yeah.
Yeah, it's vicious, man. Like, that guy attacks from everywhere. I think he's one of the most under-respected. Like, you kind of have to know, because he missed the big curve of publicity scene super fights, that you could stream, that you could watch. He's kind of pre all of that. But he fought monsters, and in a myriad of different styles of grappling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man, that's crazy. I mean, we're looking at do you actually follow the competitive grappling scene much these days? I mean, are you watching any of these guys coming up?
No.
Do you know who Nicky Rod is, or Gordon Ryan, those guys?
Yes.
Yeah.
Luke Rockhold, who you fought too, recently had a super fight against Nicky Rod.
So that could be even something cool. I mean, do you want to see the 2 MMA guys do a grappling thing? But no, I was talking with Nicky Rod's manager. I mean, if we could make something happen, would that be something you'd want to see somebody like that? I mean, he's got a lot.
Nick Rodriguez?
Yeah, Nick Rodriguez.
No.
Hey, I had to ask, man. Hey, if I don't shoot
he's like, "Do you want to go up against this ADCC silver medalist?"
Yeah.
No, it's just these big guys, man. They got the big names. These are the guys that are bringing in the viewers. These are the guys that are putting the asses in the seats. And so these are the guys that, of course, are going to want to fight a guy like you or somebody. But I'm sure you're not looking for some guy trying to come in and make a name off you, or to come do some bullshit like that, But I had to ask. I had to ask.
It's an asshole to ask, though. You're like, "Hey, I got this super young dude that's trying to find a super old dude to try to make a name off of, but I'm gonna go ahead and ask you this question."
Sorry, I didn't. Yeah, my bad, Tim. I didn't mean to. I
almost replied with like, "Go fuck yourself. Come here and ask me. Come to my gym and ask me."
No, I actually almost came to your gym. You were at Gracie Humate a little bit in Austin, right? Are you still around all those guys? I
am there every week.
Yeah, that was I was getting ready to move to Austin to go to UT to go to their School of Social Work, and I was looking at gyms around in the area, and I remember coming, man. That was where I would end up training. So
I rolled with Tim one time during one of your seminars you did in Houston, and it was not fun. I can tell you that.
Gracie Humate is not that place is a Shark Tank. I mean, you have to be in like a, Renzo Gracie, Danaher type gym to find, just on a Tuesday at noon, the level of athlete and competition there is insane. It's a pretty fun gym to be in.
That's awesome. Yeah, that was definitely the one when I was doing all my research. Humate kept coming up to the top, and just even because you were associated, then I kind of did some research on it and the different gyms in the area. And I mean, it was between you guys and Brazilian Fight Factory, Professor Rodrigo over there with the Tackett boys, doing a great job with them. But yeah, I mean, getting back to.
I have a quick question. So I had read a story that you did some kind. Did you do a grappling tournament right after Ranger School? Was it grappling or some kind of fight?
I did. I fought like 2 days after I graduated from Ranger School in the International Fight League.
I remember the IFL. Yeah.
That's insane. Because when I was done with Ranger School, I could walk a very far distance, but besides that, I had no running. I had no strength. I probably couldn't do a push-up. So the ability to like do a fight after Ranger School is insane.
If you go back and look, I still have my Ranger School haircut.
Yeah, haircut. Yeah, they shave your head right before graduation.
Yeah, no, it's like a full buzz cut from
holy shit
3 days before, like literally graduation. I went home and then I flew to I don't remember where, Columbus or something.
That's crazy, man.
That's
the IFL, man. The IFL was great, man. I really liked some of the team concepts that they had. I think that was a little before its time, but that was an awesome event. I really enjoyed watching that team aspect and kind of seeing how that all played out.
You probably didn't have to cut weight. You probably didn't have to cut weight for the fight, but
no, I did.
Oh man,
I was a fat, happy Ranger.
So I want to get into some stuff for I guess on the global war on terrorism, how it's kind of evolving, and what's your thoughts on the global landscape with Soleimani getting assassinated in Iran and just kind of all that stuff that's in play in the Middle East, people wanting to come out of Afghanistan. What's your thoughts on that current Middle Eastern that situation, how things have been unfolding over there?
I'm like, bye, Felicia, to Soleimani. I love it when we line those guys up and then knock them down dead. If you're doing bad things, don't plan for anything better than a bad end. That's what's coming for you when you're trying to hurt Americans. And that guy's been hurting Americans for a really long time. I remember a decade ago his name coming up and people discussing whether he was a viable target or not. The number of lives that would have been saved had they killed him a decade ago. Had a commander-in-chief been able to say, all right, nope, that's a bad guy, kill him.
Yeah, and remember they were like, there's going to be all this backlash. We're going to start World War III, and look,
they shot some rockets into Mosul that landed. They said this gave some of the soldiers TBIs or something like that, but I don't know how much of that was propaganda or reality or whatever it was. But
yeah, no, there was everybody's fine. He's dead. As was his entourage,
Yeah, he was in Iraq too. It's like
he was at BIOP. It was at BIOP right after that assault on our embassy. Like that's more hand in the cookie jar. I mean, what more do you need? Like, get the fuck out of there. Like, what?
Yeah. The Iraq, all kind of, especially Afghanistan, like the nomadic cultures are ones that are inherently difficult to govern. And, Russians couldn't do it for 30 years. The French couldn't do it. We can't do it. And, but anytime that it's not being governed, then there creates like a void. And that void is always filled with dangerous fanatics. Yep. And, whether it's in northern Iraq with ISIS, southern Afghanistan with Al-Qaeda, it's anytime that we're not presently there, it creates an opportunity for this radical hatred to get roots, to recruit, and then to ultimately do something bad. I don't know if I or the next generation needs to be over there, but I know that bad, evil men don't deserve to live. So yeah, I know that there's people that are going to volunteer to go do the work that needs to be done.
I mean, are we getting past the point of when I was there in 2003, there was a lot of boots on ground, and now you're seeing it more guys like yourself, more special operations units that are being used. I mean, they're filling up the ranks. Is that the future of warfare? People pushing buttons and sending in silent assassins? Or, I mean, are we ever going to see another full-fledged boots on ground type of war like we did with OIF 1 to OIF 2?
I, I think the wars in the near future are much more strategic and economic. When you're looking at China and Russia and, these proxy wars where we might have boots on the ground, but the people that we're fighting are not our immediate enemy. They're just a proxy to who our enemy is, whether it's Iran financing somebody, but Iran is being financed by the Russians. The Russians are also being supported by the Chinese, so it's this much more complex, the clarity of war. We're like, oh my gosh, there's the Nazis and they're gassing Jews in the gas chamber. Like the clarity
enemy.
of, like, I don't know if that's ever going to be there again, ever.
Yeah, that was crazy. I mean, me being over there, I was operations, legit, like kind of in a support background, but I ended up, on the back of a gun truck running convoys through Iraq, as somebody that was supposed to be sitting behind a desk in the beginning. So I think that asymmetrical battlefield kind of opened up just from the beginning. And I don't, as you said, I don't think it's ever going to be that's the bad guy. That's who we attack. I think they're all bad guys. And it's just, I don't know. It was definitely a confusing time for me. I spent 18 months as a soldier, and then I went back over and spent 3 years as a contractor in Mosul, Camp Merez and Diamondback up there. And that was as a civilian compared to a soldier, that was definitely a different experience. But yeah, man, I don't know. I don't know what the future is really when it comes to Battlefield. But I think, like you said, with the economics, with the sanctions and the trade war with China, all that stuff could be the fire starter that really kicks things off. I mean, when people really start hurting in their pockets, that's when big wars really do get started anyways.
Yep. Yeah, we're going to be moving into a pretty desperate time after a bunch of bad decisions were made out of fear and panic.
Yep. Has anything slowed down on the military side with, having to drill and all that stuff, or is that kind of slowed down?
No, it's all the same. I have drill this coming weekend. I still have kind of the same demand for work. You still have to do, your SEER 100, and you still have to make sure your government credit card is cleared. You have to make sure that your periodical health assessment is current, that your vision and dental is all good. Make sure that you're green in all those little bubbles. And if you're green in all those little bubbles, and you can go to work, and when you go to work, you have all these, and nothing's changed.
So, yeah. So Garrison, for a special operator like yourself, is kind of, when you go to drill, is it a drill just like how most others will go? Or is it more of a relaxed kind of deal? I mean, what you guys work on compared to what, say, some of these other guys are working on is completely different. I mean, are you guys going to the range?
More fun stuff.
Yeah, more fun stuff.
I mean, it looks like it's more fun, but it's still just work. Like if we're at the range or we're jumping out of a helicopter, that looks super sexy for, the 45 seconds that you're jumping. But
all the way waiting before them is miserable.
Not even that. Not even just the sit and waiting to load, but all of the other stuff that all of the other soldiers have to do. We have to do those things too. Like, we don't get a pass on basic soldiering stuff.
Right.
Like I still have a uniform with all the stuff on it. I still have to wear it sometimes, which means I have to have a good haircut. Like, all that stuff still applies.
Yeah, well, it's even harder, you being an NCO, more responsibility in your leadership duties too. It's not just show up and, or tell me what to do. A lot of people don't realize that, the higher you get up, the more you have to do, and the harder it is as well.
Yeah, I don't want to do anything. I just want to.
Well,
I just want to go jump out of helicopters and shoot stuff, but unfortunately, I never get to do that. It's just work.
Speaking of helicopters, I see you started to learn how to fly helicopters. What really sparked your interest in starting to do that? Is it just kind of learning, always keeping and learning new things?
Yeah, I like getting out of my comfort zone, things that I already know. It feels really good to, go into your gym and train with the guys that how you're going to perform with them. I actually hate that. I love going to other people's gyms. I love, kind of going and trying different martial arts. It's one of the reasons, I spent a lot of time sitting on the skids of helicopters and sitting indoors of helicopters, hoping that the pilot already did the right thing. Now I want to be able to do those things.
Right. Well, it's like constantly trying to be a white belt, because that's going to, what you said, get you out of your comfort zone, and your kind of brain starts firing in a different way too.
Yeah.
I've noticed that too. Like whenever I go to a different gym, specifically like let's say jujitsu, I retain that technique that I learned in that other gym. I think a lot better, because your mind is kind of not in the complacency of, oh, I'm just in class with all my normal people. Like one of the moves that you taught, I use all the time, and it's because I think you're just in a different setting, different coach, and that just kind of helps you retain those techniques a little bit more.
Yeah, totally true.
So Tim, I want to ask you about the Sheepdog Response. I mean, that was something that was really cool to me, because I kind of, when that first started coming out and everything, it was really like kind of front line, cutting edge. Are you guys still doing a lot of that stuff? I mean, how big is that really grown? And I mean, can you talk about the beginning of that and what maybe kind of started Sheepdog Response?
Yeah, a fellow black belt, Blake Hayes in Oklahoma, he had a jiu-jitsu self-defense gym, and he brought me up for a seminar. And the seminar was like the full spectrum of being able to fight. So weapon retention, weapon takeaways, shooting, wrestling, grappling, and so I run the seminar, and Blake's like, you realize there's nobody else on the planet that has your resume and your qualifications and that can do what you do. Why aren't you doing this? And I was like, I don't have the time to set up a gym and set up a range and like run the websites, and so it was Blake that was like, well, how about I do that for you, and then you just come in and teach these things. So that was the beginning of it, was really just like, we knew that there was people that needed it, and there weren't a lot of people that could provide the real information. So that was the beginning, and now it's morphed, obviously into, probably the industry leader in all of defensive tactics. So like when everybody's looking, okay, what are we going to be doing for a technique, whether it's like a vehicle bailout drill or, bodyguard stuff, like people just look to us. Like when the pandemic hits, like we have Delta Force guys as instructors, green berets coming out of our ears, Navy SEALs, MARSOC.
It's amazing.
Partnering with counter human trafficking groups, and going all over the world, literally all over the world, to teach people that just want to learn how to protect themselves. So,
my follow up on that is, how important is it that people learn to protect themselves in this day and age? I mean, not just physically, but also, I mean, you're being attacked from all different angles. You're getting attacked by the media, social media. They're targeting ads at you for nefarious purposes. The Cambridge Analytica thing that led to the whole thing, the data dump on the psychological profiles. I mean, should people be looking at things other than just the physical as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Everything about reliance comes to individuals, you being able to protect your family and provide for yourself and your family. And that's something that we have really gotten away from. Some of it by design, some of it by laziness, some of it by convenience. But, whether it's like, I'm not going to own a car, I'm going to co-op own a car with 4 other people. Well, that sounds really great economically. You can do that. Then a pandemic hits and you're like, I got to get out of town.
I need a car.
And I need a car. Like, am I going to call my other 3 co-owners of my vehicle to see if it's okay if I drive out of New York and try, to get to Connecticut to my mom's house? So
works for a lake house, not so much a car.
Timeshare that. Timeshare your lake house.
Yeah. So, and we're using that I'm using that as an example for everything, all the way down to defense. Obviously, since this came, like the largest run on guns in American history since 9/11 happened when they said, hey, COVID could be dangerous.
And ammo, right?
Yeah, completely. Like, you could not walk into a gun store to buy a gun. And a lot of first-time gun buyers went out of fear, they went out to buy a gun.
Mm-hmm.
And that's great that you went and bought your first gun. Welcome to gun ownership. But it's a huge responsibility that takes, just like jiu-jitsu, a ton of training, being able to store it properly, being able to make sure it's being kept in a working order. Like there's a lot of things that go with that none of these people know or understand. And Sheepdog Response, again, is kind of like uniquely positioned where have already been proponents of this for, like pushing a decade. Like this, everybody needs to be. This is not just for special forces snipers, like dudes that fought in Iraq and Afghanistan that have black belts. That's not who this is. Like this is for the soccer mom that's driving her kids to school. She's going to be there when that kid shows up to do a school shooting. Are you going to let that guy walk into school from the parking lot and start mowing kids down? Or are you going to go ahead and pull that gun out from your purse, and
anybody that's got a CAL course, you go out in the range with all these people you don't know, and you start really seeing how much people they're about to have a concealed carrying license, and they don't even know proper range technique. They're holding the their handgun with the their finger on the trigger. I'm like, what? Like you were being very unsafe.
Everybody.
Oh yeah, it's scary. So proper training is definitely necessary. Just like a car.
With us.
Zach,
we are very hands-on.
Zach, you attended one of his courses, grappling based, right? Or was it just
I did the grappling one where I actually rolled also with Blake, who I think he's the only one that I've ever tapped through back pressure. He like flattened me out and then just like put all of his weight on the back of my lower back, and I like tapped from that. I was like, I don't even know what that was, but that was effective.
Yeah, he's a great instructor, and he's a great black belt. He's very, very talented. Well,
and speaking of your entrepreneurial spirit, you have a lot of different companies, Ranger Up, Shoe Company, Whoopi, all of your different companies that you're involved in. What's the biggest, us starting Turkos Grappling and other ventures, what's your big advice for entrepreneurs and building a business, building a brand?
Hey, Zach, I think you're still there. I thought you froze up for a second. Go ahead. Sorry about that.
Nothing's ever easy. People like, oh man, if I could get this video to be viral, it's going to like change things, right? If I could get on Fox or if I could get Ellen DeGeneres to wear my shirt, like boom, I'm going to be an instant millionaire. Like the thing about the American dream is that it always came down to hard work. And I don't care if you got an MBA, I don't care, if you have like the best, brightest minds on the planet, like you're still going to have to put in the work. And,
100%.
And I'm not throwing stones at any generation, but it's not easy. And if you quit at any juncture, you're just destining yourself and that business to failure. So you got to be up before everybody else. You got to hustle harder than everybody else, and you got to go to bed later than everybody else. That's just how it is. And then ultimately, slowly, you start taking a corner and being like, hell yeah, this is getting cool.
Yeah, that's kind of where we were getting at with Turkos Grappling. Right when all this stuff hit, we in the beginning we took some big losses financially because starting a grappling promotion, we were all idealistic. We weren't trying to get rich. We were like, hey, we want to spread the sport. We want to get out there. We want to do some cool shit. Well, we get into it and we realize, holy shit, grapplers are poor. Like this sport is very poor. Like there's not much in it. So we basically had to come in and try to reinvent the wheel. And we took some big losses early on. But as you said, as an entrepreneur, me and Zach will outwork anybody. I don't give a fuck who you are. When it comes to grappling, promoting, or that business, like we put in the work, we grind hard, and I think that kind of shows.
Maybe not outwork Tim Kennedy.
Not outwork you. If you started a grappling promotion, I'm out. But no, no, man. That's exactly what I think is kind of mine and Zach's mantra is like, I mean, if stuff starts sucking, just work harder.
Well, and a little bit back onto your business around Sheepdog. You actually had to utilize your skills because somebody tried to break into your house, right?
Yeah. Yep. We had a professional burglar, duct tape.
He picked the wrong house for sure.
Gun, flashlight. Yes, he did. Yeah. Well, I mean, yes and no. I keep a lot of cool stuff in my house, like a lot of stuff that burglars would want. And, sometimes the prize outweighs the risk. They asked people around, they talked to landscapers. We found out like he legitimately had done a little bit of work to try and find out, who he wanted guns and he wanted money, and you know, they're not the brightest criminals. They're the reason why they're criminals, and he you know, he did get the wrong house, or maybe didn't, you know, because like I kill him. You know, like if he goes to anybody else's house, there's a really good chance that, you know, he gets shot coming through that front door.
Right.
Instead, you know, like I had windows that you can't get through. I had doors that you can't get through. I had a security system. I had a law.
Fuck. Oh, there's Tim again.
Out of here. You know,
Right.
ultimately I had to, when he was walking up to my son's room, my toddler's room, I had to go confront him on the lawn at 3:55 in the morning.
Holy shit.
But, you know, really it was a testament to all the things that we teach other people. You know, it was a bummer that he was at my house, you know, because like first and foremost, I hope that you could prevent somebody from ever wanting to come to your house, you know, like where your house is not the house that they're going to try to hit. Like we talked specifically about how to make your house be the house as they're trying to case different places. They're like, not that one. I'm gonna go to a different one. You know, but he ultimately decided to give mine a whirl, and but all the things from, you know, vegetation, you know, landscaping, lighting, barricades, all the things that we teach and put in place, ultimately, you know, saved what could have been a pretty dangerous situation.
Yeah. Well, even living with Tim Kennedy, I'm sure your wife wasn't super happy that, or, you know, probably increased her anxiety around burglars after that happens. It's like finding a spider in your bed, right? You're checking every morning, you know, every night before you go to bed that you have a spider.
Same thing.
It can happen to Tim Kennedy. It can happen to anybody. So,
well, and so, you know, you have young kids too. And, you know, I just had a daughter that was born on Easter. And so always thinking about how to prepare them. What are some advice you have for parents on how to train your kids for, you know, how to be prepared for kind of any situation?
I mean, the only way to be prepared is to prepare, and prepared is about preparing. So like
having
that's
a plan
and rehearsing it. That plan, like a plan that is not rehearsed, a plan that is not practiced, is not a plan. You know, like you can whiteboard some stuff. Like you know, I could walk into a room full of toddlers and be like, all right, this is the coach for the New England Patriots, and he's going to go ahead and show you what we're going to do when we go out during recess. You know, and then he gets up on the whiteboard and he writes a bunch of stuff down, and all the kids are like, what is that, Latin? You know?
I'm going to Tampa.
Yeah, the only way that plan can be executed is by those players practicing and rehearsing and practicing and rehearsing and practicing and rehearsing. And again, here we are back to hard work. There's not an easy way to get prepared. You know, like it takes sweat, it takes blood, it takes pain. And then all of a sudden when things start going really, really wrong, you're like, this ain't that bad, man. I know what to do.
Right.
Because I'm prepared for it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's awesome.
It's kind of determining every, you know, possible situation that you could think of that could happen to you, and then developing plans for how to mitigate that. So whenever it does happen, you know, your family knows what to do, you know what to do, and it's just react rather than, you know, let's figure this out now that it's too late that a hurricane's here or tornado's about to come hit our house, right?
Yeah. If you're in the middle of the pandemic and your first time where you thought about buying a gun is when there's a line of 400 people trying to buy a gun.
Yeah, you're too late.
Like, yeah, there won't be a gun, and and everybody else will already have one. So start now. Start training now.
No, that's good. That's great advice. And I mean, Tim, what made you? I mean, when you were coming up, I mean, is there anything that when you were coming up as a child or as a teenager that said that you knew you were different than others? Because it takes a special type of motherfucker to go out there and go through special forces training and to do all the extra type of stuff you did. Did you know early on that there was something different? Did you have like that grit and tenacity, or was there just something inside of you that led you down that path?
No, I knew pretty early on. You know, like before I could walk, people would give me a big, long, wide berth. If they got too close, I was going to attack their ankles and try to bite them. You know, I'm dead serious.
Low single. Let's hit them with one. Yeah.
And, you know, by the time I'm like 5, 6 years old, well, 4, I'm in kindergarten. You know, and somebody makes fun of one of my fellow kindergartners, Laura, says that she has a boy haircut. Like follow that kid up onto the second floor of the play gym. I crack him in the face and I push him off and he breaks his arm. Like
I love this shit.
He's probably telling that story. He's like, Tim Kennedy broke my arm when we were in first grade. It was crazy.
I was a total prick about it.
I was messing with Laura. I was a dick. I deserved it.
And and that goes. I mean, you follow the same template from 6 months old to kindergarten to second grade to like all the way into high school, where it's like this dude's being a jerk to a girl in the riverbed, and I'm like, hey, you can't do that. And like him and all of his friends walk up with beer bottles, chains, and pipes. And I was like, that doesn't change anything, and like 60 stitches later, it still didn't change anything.
That's crazy, man. Yeah, I mean, it like I said, it takes a special type of person. Like when it comes to like kids these days, I mean, bullying back in our day, you could basically contain it to the schoolyard or to school or whatever. Now kids can't escape the bullying. They come home, they got the social media, they got the Instagram, they got this, and kids are a lot meaner these days. What's your advice for maybe maybe somebody that's young and trying to find their way in a society like this, maybe being bullied, pushed around? I mean, what's the best thing they can do?
Well, you can always turn it off. You can discontinue the source. The second part is individual confidence, and that comes from lots of different ways. Like that's martial arts is a great tool to do that. Wrestling, team sports, like when you're surrounded, like if you're the little guy and somebody's making fun of so and so, but you're still showing up to your football practice as the little guy, at some point that the rest of that team is like, wait, who's messing with Rudy? Like, what did they say about him? The whole entire linemen show up, and or you got this kind of hairy-handed, retarded ogre for a troll that looks like he always wants to fight, and he likes to fight for the little guys. Like also, I recognize there's a disconnect between what happens. Like I get tons of trolls on social media, right? They're like, oh, you're not a blah, blah, blah. Like, are you really like Special Forces, Green Beret, sniper, UFC fighter, black belt? Like nobody is all those things. You're dumb. And you're like, all right. But they forget that I'm real. Like you might just be typing on things and think that you're not going to see me. I did a podcast and some of my words were taken out of context, and a bunch of people like went after me pretty disgustingly. Like a lot of conservatives and a lot of libertarians and a lot of 2A people, a lot of people that I think if they had a little higher IQ, they would have understood what I was trying to do. Yeah. But then I see him in person, and
they shut up real quick.
Oh, Mr. Kennedy, I'm real. That's not what I meant. I was like, I don't care what you meant. I'm just going to hold you accountable for what you said. and I want you to go ahead and say that to my face right now. Of course they're like, well, Mr. Kennedy, it's not like that. It's just like, no, it is like that. Those were your words. You just type them, but now you don't have the balls to say them to my face. So not only were you a coward then, but now it's obvious to everyone else that you're a coward now.
I love that shit. I love it.
Yeah. But you got to be the fine balance of then not being the bully, right? Like, am I being the bully confronting this person that's being a troll on the internet? So you have to be very intelligent about, it's 21st century, man. It's a different world. I am so thankful that smartphones did not exist when I was 14 years old, because I would be in jail for the rest of my life.
It's like best bully defense is a bully offense, right?
Yeah. Like there was a guy on here named his name was Troll B Covington, and he was like, "Tell Tim to shut up. He's a boomer." And I was like what the fuck are you even talking about? How's he a boomer? Like he's our age. Like you're not a fucking boomer. Like just because you, I don't know. Like you said, the trolls, man. We're getting them on our end too, and it's like doing like. What point do you just engage or disengage? I mean, you engage for fun, right? Or to inform, or is it just either just to disengage and ignore it all? Because eventually that bad talk and bad media, people start to believe it. They read the comments and they're like, oh, this motherfucker said that. Then it's stuck in their head. So, I mean, what balance do you find?
Yeah, I mean, there is like you a troll account. There's never one, right? Like that one guy will have 20 or 30 troll accounts. and he'll go on and he'll say something, and he'll take his other 19 accounts and he'll like that comment, and he'll be arguing with himself to like perpetuate the same lies. He's like, no, I heard the same thing too. Like these people are insane. Like they have like personality disorders, like nearly to a degree where like they should be institutionalized just so they can get a little bit of attention. So I feel more sorry for them than I do angry at them for what they say. But again, you have to be intelligent about where you're going to engage. You know, like there are issues that I'm not, you know, when it comes to like liberty, when it comes to freedom, when it comes to the Constitution, when it comes to our right to bear arms, it comes to like my ability to train, like the fact that the government came in and said, hey, you can't be training people right now. Like that goes all the way back to 1776. Like somebody else told us that we couldn't do that we couldn't train, and that we couldn't have guns. And, you know, we threw some tea in the harbor, and then we killed them all. You know, and then we formed our own country. So like I don't respond really well to, you know, people making unfounded accusations, especially along those lines. All the other stuff, you know, like people making fun of me, or like, hey, you lost to Kelvin Gastelum, or I'm so, you know, Yoel Romero punked you.
They would never step in that. They would never step in that cage to begin with.
No, they could barely get off their fat asses to get off the couch and set their phone down to make it to the cage.
They wouldn't make it through a jiu-jitsu warm-up. Just it's not even worth your time.
Worth your time.
Yeah. So that's pretty insightful though on the terms of kids, you know, preparing. I mean, do you think that there should, I mean, jiu-jitsu obviously has changed a lot of lives. You know, myself, I came back from overseas. I got up to like 320 pounds, started training jiu-jitsu, dropped a bunch of weight. I gained some of it back, but it changed my life. And
pandemic 15?
Yeah, pandemic 25. I'm telling the truth here with Tim Kennedy. I'm not trying to hide anything, but you know, it changed my life for the better. I was wrecked. I was on 8 VA meds. I was all fucked up. You know, I couldn't even do basic stuff after, you know, 3 years over there, a year there. You know, that's something I want to ask you about. Me being a support type, not a door kicker like a you or Zach were. Like, why is it that there's more of a higher range of guys that were, I know the answer. I just want to get your feedback on it.
Trade for it.
Yeah. Like, is that the difference? You guys are mentally conditioned for these environments? Because I go over there, I think I'm going to be pushing paper, deploying and redeploying troops. The next thing you know, I'm on a fucking gun truck with a Mark 19 and a 50 cal, you know, doing convoy platforms for a year. So it was like, it was fucking a mind fuck.
Yeah, you said it yourself, the mind fuck. You know, the coping mechanisms are, you know, there are these things that for an individual are present for how we deal with stress. And when you get to a gunfighter, he has volunteered countless times, you know, like 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times he's volunteered to go into the military, and then to go to infantry, and then to go to airborne school, and then to go to selection, and then go to an ODA, and then to go, like, by the time he has gotten to the gunfight, he has been so, by his choice, by his own inclusion, putting himself into that situation, you know, which is vastly different than you know, like a cook being like, hey, we need somebody on the gun truck. Can you be a driver? And then, you know, he's covered in cerebral spinal fluid from the dude next to him as his head exploded.
That's fucked up.
Yeah, like, but no matter what your job is, you know, if you're wearing the flag on your shoulder, you got to do whatever your country asks of you and demands of you. The difference with the warfighter, you know, is that we really wanted to be there. And we did everything that we could to find a way to get into that gunfight, where a lot of other jobs where people never wanted to be there. And that's totally fine.
And that was mine. Yeah, that was mine. Yeah, I didn't want to be there.
And we could never do what we do without the thousands and tens of thousands and millions of other people out there that are enabling us to do our job. And like, their job is not less than our job. It was just the choices and the coping mechanisms that were in place for us to do our job.
Yeah, like after 9/11, you know, that was kind of I joined in 2002. That was kind of like hey, I want to join, but I get in there and I had this cool high-speed job picked. Me and my buddy but then they're like, oh, you're red, green, colorblind. I'm like, what? Like, so they tell me I'm colorblind, and like all of a sudden it's like now your list of jobs that you wanted and that we were going to basically give you is now this. Welcome to being an operations coordinator. Like, it was like, what the fuck, man? Like, I was looking to be like,
that's an important job though.
I was, and I did a lot, and I got to do some of the stuff I wanted to initially do as a contractor, you know, once I got out. But initially I wanted to get into human intelligence gathering, get into more of that sort of intel analyst kind of background type stuff. but they told me, hey, your GT score is good, but you can't see red or green. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, what's going on here?
That explains a lot.
Well, do what you can. You know, like it doesn't matter. As Ju's the best that you're ever going to be allowed to do. I got to go fix a well.
Okay, man.
We appreciate your time very much.
Yeah, we're right on an hour. I appreciate it, Tim. I'm sorry for that question earlier. If you do see me,
I just give you a hard time.
No, if you see me outside of here though, and we're in a gym environment, just forget it ever happened. It's like Men in Black, all right?
No, don't forget it. We just talked about this. You can hold people accountable for their words, and that's
I loved it.
You're good.
I love it, man. I appreciate it. All right, Tim. Thank you very much, man.
Thanks, Tim.
Bye.
Bye.